This Saturday, the Pain Game is live from Saudi Arabia with one of the best boxing cards of the year. 4 world titles are on the line, and it's headlined by the Mexican monster, David Benavidez. This man blasted his way through the super middleweight division to such a degree, he had Canelo running scared. Now he's moved up to the light heavyweight division, but standing in his way of an eventual showdown with Dimitri Bivol is Britain's own bad man, the beast from the East, Anthony Yarde. 2 of the most devastating punchers in boxing. There will not be a step backwards. Never has a fight guaranteed violence more than this one. And in the co-main event, Devin the Dream Haney is going up in weight to compete for a world title in his 3rd different weight class. The defensive technician will look to right the wrongs of recent performances, but standing in his way is one of the most exciting fighters in boxing right now, Brian Norman Jr. The champ has been on a tear lately, rendering everyone in his path unconscious. Oh, and this one? It's getting personal.
Never knocked out nobody at the top. I know he's going to say, oh, well, you're going to be the first one. Yeah, okay, sound good. We've heard this before. I know that he has power. We all know they got power. But against guys we've never seen before.
Will Haney be able to avoid that destructive power and outclass Norman Jr., or will he relive the nightmares of the Ryan Garcia fight? I'll be honest, I hope so. Because if Norman Jr. wins this, boxing has a new superstar. This is defensive perfection versus violent destruction. With the winner of this rumored to be facing Conor Benn in 2026, it's all to play for. And we'll find out who's more dangerous here, a man with everything to lose or a man with everything to gain. Don't miss it this Saturday live from Saudi Arabia on the Pain Game. Welcome back to the Pain Game. This weekend, we are going to Saudi Arabia for one of the best fight cards of the year. David Benavidez, Anthony Yarde in the main event. Co-main event, one of the most hated fighters from my house in the world, Devin Haney versus Brian Norman Jr. We can't wait. And Bam Rodriguez, all sorts of fucking good fighters on that card. It's going to be great, but we're going to touch on that later in this video, lads. First off, Jake Paul, and this is the real funny thing, he's giving Anthony Joshua, Jake Paul is giving Anthony Joshua, the heavyweight legend, right, in our lifetime, his career high payday. Jake Paul is a fucking A-side. Jake Paul is saying, you're going to be a 245 maximum, motherfucker. Like, Jake Paul's giving orders here. Jake Paul's first on the fucking headline. Like, that is also blowing my mind. Even Eddie Hearn said in an interview earlier this week, he's going to get more for this than he's going to get to fight Tyson Fury if the Fury fight happens. Like, and speaking of Tyson Fury, and this brings me on to you, Joey Knight. How the fuck has Tyson Fury let Jake Paul put the gloves on and get in there with Anthony Joshua before he did? How are you going to fucking look your mate in the eye?
Fury probably had the offer, mate. He's not into the old circus shows. You know what I mean? He's not into that malarkey.
Oh my God.
He's probably fuming that his brother didn't get the fight, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But listen, I don't know, man. Like, I look at this fight with Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua, and you constantly hear it. You heard it with Mayweather and McGregor, and you hear it with so many fights. Does it damage their legacy? I would like you to give me an example of a time someone's legacy has been damaged.
And Fury.
From an individual fight. Yeah. No, but Ngannou Fury ain't really, has it? Like, what I'm saying is, I think that having fights over a prolonged period of time, like Roy Jones Jr., that can damage your legacy. But a one-off fight where realistically you're not going to take no damage. But then, do you know what this leads me on to? And I actually think it's very, very unfair. And I think even you'd agree, Brian, to compare Ngannou with Jake Paul. But that's what this leads me on to. If you count that, Trav, if you count Ngannou Fury as being something that damaged his legacy, if Anthony Joshua goes to points with Jake Paul, fuck me, if he gets dropped by Jake Paul, then potentially it does damage your legacy.
I've had people messaging me who are like boxing content creators who, generally speaking, make good boxing videos and gone, you do know AJ's chin's fucking gone, right? Like, and I'm not saying that I believe that. I don't believe that. I think getting beaten up by Daniel Dubois does not mean your chin's gone, especially when you keep getting up and you fucking manage to rock him late in the fight and you stayed in the fight. And I think Daniel Dubois is a freak like, you know, AJ is a freak. He's a one-off. Jake Paul is not Daniel Dubois. But some people are genuinely giving Jake Paul a chance. That's blowing my mind here. Like, it shocked me.
It's all rooted in the fact they just don't respect AJ. But it's not even that they don't respect AJ. They disrespect AJ. Do you know what I mean? It's like, they talk about AJ as if he's a bum. And it's like, for me, I look at this whole idea that Jake Paul has a chance where I'm like, mate, how serious are you lot about when you watch boxing? Like, I think there are a population of boxing fans who would see Audley Harrison lose and genuinely think they also have a chance in there with Audley Harrison.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? Because I'm like, are you joking me, bro?
There is a lot of people like that. That's what you learn, isn't it?
That's fact. I remember Audley Harrison going on Big Brother and some dancer fella like sticking it on him and Audley Harrison being like, mate, do you realise that? I said this on a video. There was a survey. I think Brian actually knows the statistic because I got it from you. Men overcalculate their ability to fight by, what is it?
Facts. 1,000%. Yeah.
1,000%. I'm saying Jake Paul needs to be 1,000 times better to even stand a chance. It's men who've
never ever been in a boxing ring and never been hit before. They're like, I would just do this and then I would do this and I would do.
When I see red, when I get angry, mate,
you don't want to know me when I see red.
I think that's the biggest difference. Nobody who's actually fought is giving Jake Paul a chance. It's only the casual fans who've never fought in their life. So I think you're bang on with that point.
Well, you know what? I've got to admit, I messaged Jake Paul because I don't speak to him loads, obviously, but I do know him. And I just said, you know what? You've got balls the size of fucking London, you. Fair fucking play. And that's one thing where, and we've criticised him plenty on this channel before, when you know, in certain fights, has he performed as good as what, you know, maybe he should have done or whatever. But at this point, when people have been saying you only fight old men, you only fight retired MMA fighters, you've never fought a pro boxer. And like, I think that this is a big thing for him of proving people wrong in just taking the fight. He's like, you think I'm a chicken? You think I haven't got balls? There's my fucking balls on the table right there. I'm fighting Anthony Joshua. And he could have fought other heavyweights, right? There was Francis Ngannou. He's literally gone for the hardest possible test, you know, because with Francis, for example, Francis went in there with Tyson Fury, and I'm not saying Tyson Fury doesn't hit hard, but his thing is outboxing you. It's technical boxing. The devastation that Tyson Fury can do to you is not quite the same as what Anthony Joshua can do. I think that this is like the worst possible choice from Jake Paul, which is why I'm giving him credit. Question, lads, does this reframed Jake Paul in the way that he, I think, wants it to?
No. I think it's possible. Yeah, no, it definitely does. It definitely does. I have to give him credit. It's more of a positive side for Jake Paul as far as, well, no one can say it's an old guy. No one can really point the fingers and say you've orchestrated all of this. The only thing that I will say is I think the pressure might have come from Netflix. I reckon Netflix would have been like, hey, we advertise some boxing. We've got allocation for boxing. You're going to deliver us a notable opponent. And that's why he's had to throw the gauntlet down so severely, because Javante Davis as the small guy is one thing. But like you say, the heavyweight division, bro, it gets devastated at that point. Like, when
Crawford said yes, you know. Do you know Crawford said yes?
Bro.
So Crawford was on the list. So Jake Paul has Terence Bud Crawford and Anthony Joshua, and he goes, I'm going to take Joshua. That blows my mind. That's when I'm like, you're a fucking psychopath, because Terence Crawford's going to beat you up as well, logically, but it ain't going to be like hospitalization. Like, well, you know.
Also, I absolutely do. Like, bear in mind, I said on our last podcast that I've been in the ring with AJ. You know, I consider myself a tough guy, a very experienced amateur, you know, pro. And when AJ hits you with a jab, it hurts. You know what I mean? It really hurts. The power is just ridiculous. And anybody who, I seen Anthony Fowler put something on Instagram. He said, I took one in the pads before his last fight, or a couple of fights ago, and he said he nearly ripped my arms off the socket. You know, this is another boxer, very experienced. I think he's a middleweight.
Yeah.
people don't realize the power of AJ. It's freaky. When we compare his performance against Daniel Dubois, like you just said there before, Brian, he's another freak of nature, a powerful guy. There's no shame getting knocked out by him. Anybody will tell you, any of the heavyweights who've sparred him, say he's one of the biggest punchers out there. So it's mind-blowing.
You see when AJ hit you, right? What does that do to your punch output? Because I'm guessing being I don't know, maybe at the time a super middle, you probably weren't even light heavy at the time, I'm guessing, right?
No, so I was light heavy.
Even being at light heavy against a super heavy in the amateur terms, right, in Anthony Joshua, you're not going to have a massively high output anyway, I'm guessing. But surely that must just put you in a shell, does it not?
Absolutely. I mean, you literally go into survival mode because the size difference, you question your manhood, the lot. Everything goes out the window because, like I say, the power of just a jab. And bear it in mind, when you spawn bigger guys, you must have been in the gym, Joe, you spar people below and above. So, if you're the bigger guy, you bring the power down, you take your time. And AJ was essentially taking his time. And even just flicking out that hand, flicking out that jab, the force is crazy. So I really do fear for Jake Paul.
On power, that's what I mean. I've people have been ringing in TalkSport, these boxing experts. Who the fuck knows they're there, right? And they're like, yeah, but if there's one thing Jake Paul does have, mind, it's power. And AJ's chin, and I'm listening, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, who against who? He knocked out Tyron Woodley, who was 100 pounds lighter than Anthony Joshua. He's the size of Anthony Joshua's leg or something. You know what I mean? Like,
can I just to state a point when you say that? Yeah, he just failed to get rid of Chavez Jr. And Chavez Jr., right, who has done more damage to his body himself than other fighters have done to his body, right, came on strong against Jake Paul. He actually came on. I watched that fight back, right? I was clipping up bits of Jake Paul. I watched that fight back. After the 6th round, there was no highlights of Jake Paul to clip. Chavez Jr. came on strong.
Yeah.
Look, man,
and this is an 8-round fight.
A 60-year-old Mike Tyson, and he didn't put him down once. This convo about Jake Paul's power needs to end immediately, bro.
Yeah.
He does not hit with worth it. Like, he can impress normal men. Normal men can be impressed by where Jake Paul is at.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I'm wondering about Jake is, like, I think he is going to revel in the month leading up. The month leading up is going to be him at his absolute peak because even his announcement video is very funny. Just the way he conducts himself, the dismissive nature where he's reading off these lines of these great fighters' names. And then he's like, yeah, go on, Anthony Joshua, go on then. And I'm like, you're fucking mental, you. But equally, I admire this moment, right? And he's going to own the moment. Him on press conferences with Anthony Joshua, he's going to just kill it, right? He's going to act like AJ's no one and nothing to be worried about. And it's going to be a great month for him because his name is going to go to another level. The problem is when that first punch hits you in the ring and it's all of a sudden gone from very much the show to insanely real. And I know Jake Paul's he has hard sparring and he gets hit by big dudes and there's a lot of big heavyweights he sparred, but this is just like we're saying, this is an elite level heavyweight. It's a different, big guys, as we said on the last chat, big guys and elite level heavyweights are two different things entirely.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if there's a moment where he goes, oh, fuck, this was such a bad idea. And before you know it, you're in a world of fucking trouble and there's a regret and there's dread and there's like, and I'm out cold. But one thing I will say is the thing I am thinking about is people are talking about the dangers. I can't help but think there will be a conversation, and I don't mean by any means rigging a fight or anything like that, but like a conversation with the referee going, you know what the fuck this is, right? Like if things are getting, don't let this, and look, sometimes you can't step in time because Anthony Joshua, as he did with Ngannou, it's one shot and you're dead. But I bet you Jake Paul's team are bringing more fucking towels with them than they can fucking find in a hotel bathroom. Like there's going to be so many towels the minute that starts going south, and that's what I think is going to happen here is like there will be the towel going as soon as this goes bad, in my opinion.
I think the shot will be as well. I think it will be a body shot.
I was literally just about to say that. I think he'd jacket.
Yeah, it'll dig into the stomach and it's going to fold him in half, man. It's that thing about power. It's like sometimes, you might get a guy that just has a natural chin. We don't know if Jake Paul just has one of those natural God-given chins where he can take a jab and it's like, oh, right, he's still standing. But the body shot is where the truth will be. And I think he's going to fold him.
He's got a big head, and he, actually, to be fair to him, I've not actually seen him really hurt at the chin that much. I think he takes shots fairly well, to be fair.
I've also not seen him in with Anthony Joshua.
You took the words out of my mouth right there.
You know what, right?
He turns good chins into shit chins overnight, doesn't he?
His chin was amazing.
I ain't going to say...
he's been head kicked fucking that's nothing, that. Fucking hell.
I won't say that Mike Tyson properly hurt Jake Paul, but I do think that Mike Tyson hit Jake Paul with a couple of them little stiff old man shots. I've been hit by them, trust me, yeah. Them stiff old man shots when you're sparring someone who's older, ex-pros, things like that. And you think oh, fucking hell, you still got a bit of power. I still need to be a little bit, on my toes against you. And I just feel like that moment of realization, the penny dropping, I feel like it comes very early for Jake Paul. And this is my worry. Because when Trav said about the body shot, I think we're envisioning something quite different. Trav's envisioning a nice, clean, crisp body shot landing from AJ, whether it comes from a left hook, whether it comes from the backhand off of the jab. I more see a potential, and I really hope that this doesn't happen, but I see a potential where, let's say that jab does land once, maybe twice. Jake's nose is a little bit blooded. As soon as he tucks up and AJ lets a combo go, I always just feel like there's that chance that, are you going to jack it? Are you going to take one to the body? And are you going to go down and think, do you know what? Fuck this. I've took a couple there anyway on the gloves. They were hard enough. I've took one that I can claim has took the air out of me. Are you going to jack it in there rather than take your punishment? Because realistically, if we simplify this, if we simplify this, we could say that we're all looking at this and we're saying that Jake Paul is accepting a load of money to get Knox Spark out. So if that is the case, then are you going to accept your punishment?
But this isn't about money, Joey.
Go out on your shield?
That's the thing, that I don't think this is about money for Jake Paul. Jake Paul's got more money. Jake Paul's the A side. He's got more money than he knows what to do with. This for him is about a man test, about showing everyone I'm more man than any of you fucking realise. If he then goes in there and does what you're saying could happen, it fucks it for him, because the thing he was supposed to get out of this is credibility. If everyone can then turn around and go, you quit, that actually ruins it for him to some degree. So for me, if I'm Jake Paul, the one thing he can't do is that. Look, we got to move on because there's other things to talk about. Conor Benn announced that he's going down to 147 pounds. He's looking at Barrios world title shots. There's talk of him and Ryan Garcia they're on X fucking calling each other out. I mean, that would be a mega fight.
Yeah.
And then also this weekend, we have got Devin Haney against Brian Norman Jr., which we'll get into in a second. But Conor Benn at 147, can he win a world title?
I don't think he's at that level anytime soon. I mean, possibly in the future, but he's nowhere near it. He couldn't get rid of a Chris Eubanks Jr., who was absolutely dead at the weight. He was a zombie. So how can he compete with, the top guys? And I think Barrios is probably his best chances at this point in time. He's probably one of the weaker guys at the division, but I just think he's got so much more learning to do before he steps up to world level.
That's what I was going to say. When you say how can he compete with the top guys, the elephant in the room is there's a champion that's not a top guy in Barrios. Yes. There's a champion that I think I could go the distance with in Barrios. He's honestly not of that level. And I think that against that level, Conor Benn can win a world title, but there's always the thing of once you win a world title, you can't go back. You can't go back.
The other guys? What about those top guys? What about those Ryan Garcias, those Devin Haney's?
No, but can I just say just quickly, we're looking at him competing against them. The answer in 2 fights' time might be very, very different. What I think a huge mistake would be to go in there and go straight in swimming at the deep end, because regardless of the fact that you've never beat anyone elite or boxed anyone elite at 147, you've also not boxed at 147 in about 3 years. I would go and acclimatise acclimatized a little bit. I would go down and understand that you've just earned 2 really good back-to-back paydays, despite what Eddie Hearn says about, you've had to pay in legal fees. You've earned well. Just have a 10-rounder, at least one, just to acclimatize a little bit. Yeah, but he'll have such a better chance when he gets into these fights if he does do that. If he doesn't do that, he could fuck himself in these fights. Maybe not against the Barrios, but against some of the top guys, against the Devin Haney, against Brian Norman Jr. winner, if Conor Benn goes in there, especially if it's Brian Norman Jr., if Conor Benn goes in there in his first fight down at 147, I think that is a huge risk.
I agree.
Yeah,
I can't say a performance that Conor Benn's had, including the Eubanks fights, where makes me think he's worthy and ready for that level. Like, I can't think of one performance. Can anyone think of a performance?
I think the issue is he wasn't fighting the top guys on the come up, was he? And the reason he got thrust into the Eubank fight was because of the family thing. And the one thing I can give him about the Eubank fight was, when you watch the way people respond to being hit by Conor Benn at 147, it's different to the way Eubank responds. I think as much as Eubank isn't a great version of Eubank, it's not the best version of Eubank by any stretch of the imagination. Like you say, he's at the end of his career. He is he's a 160-pound fighter, but he's actually not. He's actually a much bigger, naturally a bigger fighter who can take shots really well. The one thing we've always given credit for him is he's got a good chin. People wins in a completely different way further down when I watch Conor Benn, and I don't think they can take what Eubank could take. If he can land in the same way on 147 fighters, and again, it comes with risk. If you've got Ryan Garcia's left hook flying back at you, then it's a problem, because he can fucking hurt you just as much, and then you haven't got that extra weight on to take their shots. And I think we've seen Conor Benn actually wasn't really ever hurt against Eubank, whereas I've seen him a little bit more hurt when he was taking weight off. So technically, I'm not sure if he can fuck with a Ryan Garcia, but I think Devin Haney is someone who he would have a chance against, personally.
See, my concern is more to do with the weight for Conor. Do you know what I mean? That's a big jump. And when you start to see those weight losses just across history, that's when things go terrible, because your punch resistance is going to be more affected. The only thing that's on his side is youth. But again, he's not like 21, 22. Like, how old is he? He's like 27, 28, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, even still, we're still playing dangerous games. I'd like to see, like Joey says, a nice little easy 10-rounder just to show that your body can manage the weight. But to go against, I think he can mix it with guys properly at that weight. I think he offers a different set of attributes to modern boxing. Like, you see what Fabio Wardley has in terms of that intensity, where it's like, yes, you are the better boxer, and even after I win, you're still the better boxer, but I'm going to push you in a way that you don't get pushed. And I think Conor Benn is going to be more of that line of a fighter when he starts to put it
like
together.
Ryan Garcia. How often do we see Ryan Garcia fight solidly for 12 rounds? He can't do that. Conor Benn does that. Conor Benn will put, and yes, that left hook is dangerous, but and I agree with the lads. I think he needs to get the use of the water at that weight, but I don't really see another option for him, really.
I think that the Eubank fight shows that. I think that the Eubank fight shows that once he acclimatized to the weight, obviously look in the opposite direction this time in terms of putting weight on, but once he acclimatized to the weight, he was able to formulate and stick to a game plan that was very, very effective, to the point where you're arguing whether Eubank even won a round in the fight, right? And I look at Eubank himself, and I think that before he started experimenting with going up to the super middleweight division, obviously he took some punishment up there, came back down. Before that, he used to be a fighter that used to fight in these real sort of sustained energetic bursts, right? And there used to be something that 2-3 times a round they would happen, whereas Conor Benn now is molding into a style where he's actually able to control rounds without being able to do that. But that is a trait that he used to have, and that's why I want to see him go back down and sort of acclimatize to that weight, so that I can see that, okay, you've still got it in you to be able to go through the gears when it gets hard. Because what ultimately is going to win you titles in world world championship fights are probably rounds 9 to 12. So we need to make sure that you can go back down to that weight and you can do that. It's funny, right? Because there was the guy, I think it was Dobson that he fought, and that was like light middleweight. Somewhere in that sort of mold, right? So someone that's dangerous enough that you need to train hard and you need to, look good and perform well, but he isn't going to, ruin your plans going forward.
I think he'll make the weight easily, personally, like after the last fight. Yes, he was thick in this one for him, but I think he deliberately had to carry a bit more weight so that he could handle Eubank's pressure later on in the fight, although he didn't know like that it wouldn't be there. The fact that he's naturally like 155, I think he'll easily be able to get a few pounds off, sweat the rest out, and he'll make 147. But like you say, getting used to it is another thing.
The opponent I worry about him most for in terms of matchups, I think Shakur Stevenson is the biggest problem for Conor Benn.
Horrible. Yeah. It's the antidote, isn't it? Like with Ryan Garcia, he takes, time out in rounds. He's going to give you chances. Haney doesn't want to mix it with you, so you can get in his face. Like there's game plans. Norman Jr. is a worry, because I think he may be technically better, and he also does a lot like Conor Benn. He can mix it. Maybe he's a better version, potentially. I don't know.
Fight, Norman Jr.
But it will be a great fight, especially if Norman Jr. wins this one. Let's talk about that one then. Norman Jr., the big criticism from the Haney camp is you haven't fought anybody. We don't know who the fuck you've been fighting. Yes, you look good. You ain't fought nobody. And this is something Haney's really holding on to as a source of confidence coming in. I've mixed it with the very best. You're a bum, actually. You look good against nobodies. How valid is that?
Do you know what it is? This is what always happens when fighters are coming through. They're nobodies until they fight someone. And I also think it's so much more dangerous for Haney this time round, because after that stinker in New York, he's now got to make a statement. Everyone is expecting so much more. So he's going to have to hold his feet, trade a little bit more, well, a lot more realistically. So I think he's got a lot more chance of getting put on his arse to make Brian very happy. So that's the way I see it happening. He's going to have to take more risks than we've seen in the past, without doubt.
I don't think that Brian Norman Jr. Showed world level ability in his fights, because he hasn't had the opponents to do so, but he showed world level toughness. I think in his fights, I've seen him take punishment and come on strong, get finishes, come back to win in fights more than I've seen Haney be able to actually do that. It was, is it Santian, the guy he fought? He was taking body shots off him. He was taking heavy punishment off of him. And then he came back from behind to stop him. So, he hasn't had the names that he's able to show that he has the ability at world level, but he's definitely shown he has toughness at world level. And
Santian, by the way, was 32-0. He wasn't like a bum.
He was 32-0. He was a good fighter. And this is the thing, right? I think that, do you know what a lot of people are forgetting here? Like, a lot of people are that I'm speaking to are going, Haney's second fight at welterweight. It's not his second fight at welterweight. It's your first fight at welterweight. The last one was a catchweight. They both weighed in at 143.5, I think. 143.5 rather than 147. So I'm just saying that to memory because I'm looking at the weights. That's got to have been a catchweight fight. You wouldn't weigh in at 143.5, and you definitely both wouldn't weigh in at 143.5. Too much of a coincidence. Yeah. So this is the first time that he's fought up at welterweight, and what he's fighting is a welterweight that you can say doesn't have world level experience, but is a bona fide welterweight, a hard hitting welterweight, and one that is shown that he does have the engine to fight late into the fight. So it's going to be a tough test. We're going to find out a lot.
The cards are stacked against Haney in this fight. You're in there with a banger who is happy to mix with you. You got the pressure of Turkey ringside. He's like, I don't like that nonsense you did last time. So stand in there and fight him. So he's going to have to go against his own type. And not just that, he's got demons after that loss to Garcia. His body, he doesn't trust his ability to take a shot in the same way. We've seen, obviously, AJ deal with the Ruiz after effects. He's now coming into this fight with the big demons that he's not been able to address, and it's made him super, super defensive to the point where it's like, bro, no one wants to see this shit. And I don't think he believes he can take a shot. I think he's going to take one on the nose, and it might not even be a big shot, and he's going to scatter around the ring.
I think he's going to scatter around the ring before a shot even lands. The one thing you said before about what Haney being in this position, I think that Turki Al-Sheikh has chosen Brian Norman Jr. deliberately because he's like, well, we're going to fucking, I'm getting my money's worth, yeah. You're not going to fucking do this shit. I'm putting you in there with a savage, and you're going to have to fight your way out of it. And what really I find interesting is that when you watch Devin Haney's interviews, he went, I'll beat him any way I want. And what's amazing is, like, when fighters bullshit, I'm like, you're bullshitting. But like the level of confidence he said this with, he was like, I am going to do anything I want. I'll fight when I want to fight him. I'll box him when I want to box him. I'm going to do whatever I want. And it was just so like believable. And I'm like, is this the same person who was running scared from a fucking old Ramirez who couldn't really hurt anyone at that weight anymore? Mm-hmm. Like, it's amazing the change he's gone through. And I'm like, and this is a question for the table because, you lads have been watching boxing for a long time. If you are gun shy and you are scared of being hit at the lower weights, and you're moving up a weight and fighting a guy who's been smoking fighters at 147, surely this is only going to get worse at this point, not better.
Yeah, but I don't think that you can take what Devin Haney says and then think that his words are going to translate into his actions. Like, I've never
It was just so believable, mate. It was
like
mental.
Tyson Fury.
Yeah, but it was, like Tyson Fury. But it was believable in the build up to the Ryan Garcia fight. They were saying they were going to put Ryan Garcia in hospital. I think that when you look at Devin Haney, yeah, you can say I can beat him in any way you want. But how about by a knockout? Could you beat him by a knockout? Because you haven't knocked anyone out in 6 years. In fact, fuck that. I'm wrong. I'm definitely wrong on that. Not 6 years. That's just since you've stopped someone. I can't really remember you knocking someone out.
And that was in lower weight classes, remember?
In a very long time. And that
we're talking at heavier hands now.
Yeah, that was inside the lower weight classes. Yeah. It's 10 fights now without a stoppage for Devin Haney. So when you're saying this about this guy at welterweight who is a puncher, and do you know what the worst thing for Devin Haney is right here? And I'm just going to hold my hands up and admit to it, right? Of course I knew who Brian Norman Jr. is, the welterweight champion. Had I watched more than 3 fights of his? No, I'm going to admit I hadn't. And I would class myself as a hardcore boxing fan, right? And I had only really watched his last 3 fights or so. And this is the problem for Devin Haney. And this is why he should be talking differently, yeah? He needs to be more clued up. If I go in there and I know I'm fighting a shitter, I'm going to speak about him in glowing fucking terms. I'm going to say this. I'll tell you what, this guy's so experienced. He's had 100 fights. Don't worry, he's lost 99 of them.
Joey did that on Misfits a few times. I do it all
the time. You talk them up because then you're going to get the credit for them. And the problem Devin Haney has got here, yeah, is if he beats Brian Norman Jr., the people that haven't done what we've done, which is look into Brian Norman Jr. properly, are just going to go, oh yeah, I hadn't really even heard of him. Like, welterweight division isn't what it once was. Whereas actually, he should be talking him up because what he needs to, or people need to realize is this is a fucking flex if he can beat Brian Norman Jr. in his first fight at 147.
Yeah. I got a question. You said he can't run away. I think it was Loz that said that. I think because of the deal that Devin Haney's got, it's a multi-fight deal. I think he absolutely will try and run for the hills here, and it will be a jab, hold and run type of fight. Can he do that, or can Brian Norman Jr. track him down and plant one on him and get him on the floor? Hopefully,
I think he can, and I think the same way. I think if Conor and Haney were to fight, I think it would look like that as well. Where I think right now, because he's so feeble, and I'm basing this on the last fight, if he looks anywhere near like that, that's a guy that can be broken down. You put someone in there who doesn't respect the rules of this technical exchange we're going to have. I'm coming to fight you, Fabio Wardley style, where it's like, bro, it's just intensity, and that will eventually crack him.
I think
so who's the favourite?
It's still got to be Haney. It's still got to be Haney, but I do think the fact that he's moving up in weight and he feels the power, he needs to just put the pressure on him. We've seen he's prepared to take the risk. He needs to get on his chest and just make it messy and make it dirty. And I just think, Haney, let's see if he can run for 12 rounds. We know he's fit, but up at the bigger weight with a guy who can really bang, I think it's going to be different.
I think, do you know what? I've really, really, gone back and forth with this fight, if I'm being completely honest, because originally I thought, right, okay, this will be Devin Haney, and I think that we'll see a little bit more from Devin Haney. I think we kind of saw it in the last fight with Shakur Stevenson, and the reason I mentioned that is Turki Al-Sheikh wants to see action, and he's been vocal about it, and I think that Shakur last time out, listen, I'm not saying he was fucking Gay Ward, but he showed a little bit more willingness to engage if someone brings the fight to him. And I was initially thinking, okay, maybe that will be like this. Maybe Devin Haney will still work on the ropes like he did against Jose Ramirez, but he will engage a little bit more. But then I've watched more and more of Brian Norman Jr. And the more I watch of Brian Norman Jr., the more I'm starting to think, I don't think that you need to do what I originally felt you needed to do, which was knock Devin Haney out, get a stoppage over Devin Haney. I think that you can have Devin Haney running scared of you through hitting him with the right shots because of your power within a couple of rounds. So I think that we could potentially even see a boring fight in this one, because I think Devin Haney could feel the power early and just think, right, I don't know if I do want to really get stuck in here. Or we'll see levels. It's either going to be one or the other, isn't it?
Mm. Okay, we'll move on to the main event then. Benavidez versus Yarde. I know this is a close to home one for Travis. A bit of a Yarde fan on you, to say the least.
Absolutely, I know my dog.
Yeah. And look, I've got a video coming out about breaking down the footage, and the one thing I did think was, at this weight, Benavidez hasn't quite looked the same. When you're trying to do this pressure thing and non-stop throwing punches against men who can physically handle it and take it better and give a bit more and wear you down a bit more, it's looked a hell of a lot more competitive. And I mean, his last fight was insanely competitive. He got fucking dropped. Mm-hmm. So, if you know, and I don't think that those guys hit as hard as Yarde. So as much as Yarde may have struggled a little bit lately, I absolutely give him a fucking chance in this fight. It's just how much. Lads, what are you thinking? How much of a chance?
It's really difficult because the level that Benavidez has been fighting at in terms of, you know, you were talking about the last fight he got dropped, but you're talking about another world-class operator, a southpaw. And I just think Yarde, yes, was single punch power. You know, he's definitely going to be the harder hitter, probably physically stronger. But the work rate and the pressure, and a lot of people underestimate Benavidez's defense. He goes from kind of like a high guard to a little bit of a, Philly shell style. You know, he goes up and down the levels. He's just so experienced. I just think Yarde's got a lot of flaws in his style and his defense. He's getting experience all the time. He's beating with the top guys, but it's mainly been his heart and his power that way he's kind of got the success. But in terms of boxing ability, you what, sorry?
Has he been in with the top guys? Has he been in with the top guys?
Well, Beterbiev is the natural one.
Yeah, how do you
Beterbiev and Kovalev. And Kovalev, like people say Kovalev was past his best, but he was still a monster, very experienced, both amateur and professional. So you've got to give him credit for them two performances alone.
So my counter to that, when I say has he been in with the top guys, is to gain the amount of experience that I think you'd need to acquire to get to world level, you'd need to have consistently been in with top guys. And that's not something that Anthony Yarde's done. So Anthony Yarde has been in my opinion, with definitively one top level fighter in terms of Beterbiev. I don't really think, look, it's no secret that it was a faded Kovalev. Was it still a world level version of Kovalev? Well, yeah. I mean, he beat Alida Alvarez after that and won a world title. I don't think it was the Kovalev that we've seen. And the fights in between, I think there's a huge golfing class. Whereas if you look at Benavidez, I understand that a lot of it was down at super middleweight, but he had like a 5-fight run, didn't he? Where for 5 fights, he didn't fight anyone that was ranked outside of the top 10 in the governing bodies. It was like Lemieux, David Plant, straight into Andrade, and he was going through guys. And I understand that people are now saying, okay, well, he hasn't looked the same up at light heavyweight, but Morrell's a big light heavyweight, like, you know, just as big as Anthony Yarde, sort of a little bit taller than Anthony Yarde. And I would say in terms of frame, naturally maybe a bigger man than Anthony Yarde. So I don't buy into the thing of like, this is going to be the toughest physical test that Benavidez has been in yet.
But I think it's going to present some serious physical challenges that he hasn't seen before. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like when you watched, and the thing is, it's like, whilst I do understand what you mean in terms of the golfing class when he's dropped to, when he's not in those top level fights, he still competes very well when he's in those top level fights. So it's like, the way they've chose to navigate their career, it's an odd choice in today's world, but it's clearly something to it because he does show up for those big fights. Like,
Trav, do you think he showed up? Do you think he showed up for the Kovalev fight? Like, do you think he competed well?
I think he was green and it was just pure natural raw instinct that kept him in the fight because he wasn't like he was winning rounds. He was waiting for his opportunity and it started to come on. Body shots eventually started to kind of burn Kovalev out. They didn't expect the second win that Kovalev would amount to go forward. But I think the Yarde that showed up for Beterbiev beats a lot of these guys who are considering themselves to be contenders. So my thing is, if you show up like that, and my only issue in this fight is Yarde's tank stamina. Like, Benavidez shows he can maintain pressure. He can be there late in the same way that he starts. Whereas Yarde, I worry from round 8 onwards what that looks like.
For that reason, I would say the game plan, kind of like when you're facing a Usyk, it needs to be tailored to 6-7 rounds. And by that point, if we're still there, then we're losing, you know? Because when I watched him against Lyndon Arthur, the way he came out like a man on a mission in that rematch and piled the pressure on. I'm not saying necessarily that level of pressure, but he has to go after him and he has to try and hurt him early on to have a chance in this, in my opinion, because later on, this guy's a fucking Terminator. Like, and he will just keep applying that pressure nonstop. And against Beterbiev, one thing I did think was, yeah, he hurt Beterbiev, but I think Beterbiev, for me, is a better light heavyweight in his prime than what we're seeing from Benavidez so far. I can't put Benavidez now in that same league. And Beterbiev had this amazing ability to get hurt and then hurt you back. I don't think for 1 second Benavidez's power is going to be on the same level of Beterbiev. And that was where Beterbiev was able to overcome this challenge. So yeah, I think when you hurt him, you have to fucking empty the clip. If you get a moment where you see he's hurt, go for broke. Otherwise, you'll be regretting it, just like other fighters have done with Usyk later on. You fucked it. You missed the chance there.
I don't think Benavidez's power is on the level at light heavyweight as Beterbiev's. But what you said about the ability to get hurt and then hurt someone back, I think that Benavidez's style is very, very apparent that he can do that. And I think that he'll be able to do that against Anthony Yarde. I think that with Anthony Yarde, what I've noticed is he is a fighter that will fight in bursts and he likes to take his little rests in between that. He doesn't actually fight at a consistent pace throughout. And one of the reasons, like, this is often like labeled as a criticism towards fighters, right? You know, fighters that can do this, they do it because they're good enough to be able to do it. So it is actually a compliment in a way that you're able to do that. Fighters like David Hay were able to do that. Just wait and then box in moments and bank on the fact that they're so explosive and so good in those moments that you actually don't have to just be consistent with the jab and things like that. But the problem is this, you can only do that if you're in control of the fight. There's no time to rest when you're not in control of the fight. So the output can be the same, but if what's coming back at you is different and you're not in control of the fight, then you're going to be getting drained and drained and drained. And that's what I'm saying. If you look, right, even lower down in weight, which would... I don't necessarily think that Benavidez was weight drained or anything, but you would support the theory that you're going to have a better engine, maybe up in weight a little bit, even lower down in weight. Around the time that he fought, which Durrell did he fight, Trav? I can't remember. Around the time that he fought the Durrell brother, I think it was Anthony. Around the time that he fought Anthony Durrell, he went on a 3-fight run where he was stopping people in the 7th round, in the 8th round, in the 10th round. And I just think, if it gets to the 9th or the 10th, what does that look like for Yarde? Because I have seen what it looks like for Benavidez. I've not seen what it looks like in a tough fight for Yarde. When Yarde has gone to points, he's either lost or he's won, and it hasn't looked good. It didn't look good in the third fight against Lyndon Arthur. It looked awful in that fight on Sky when he had the one fight under Ben Shalom. Do you remember? That looked awful. So when he goes late to points, it doesn't normally look that great. I do fear for him late in this fight.
I think the direction of the fight will be kind of established in that first 2 rounds when they meet and they have the exchange, because Benavidez is not a step back fighter. They're going to meet and they're going to have those exchanges. That's going to give
it's going to be great, though.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
And it's going to give us a real taste for what the rest of the journey is going to be like. Because if Benavidez can't hang with him with those exchanges, Benavidez goes to boxing.
I think we all know Anthony Yarde isn't a world-class boxer, in my opinion. He's a world-class puncher, and his defense, I don't think is great. I think he's got a very leaky defense. I think the only thing he really has is heart and power, and that's not no disrespect. And maybe that's because of his run on the way through, lacking, good quality learning fights. He's just all about his brutality, and I think that's why he fights in bursts, because you've seen the muscle on him. He's a big lump of a light heavyweight. So I can't see him being able to outbox Benavidez at all. He's got to go out there, like Brian said, make it a 6-round, 8-round fight maximum. Because if it goes to that late second half of the fight, I don't give him a chance at all.
Never has body types reflected, in boxing, our body types are deceptive. These two body types, it's literally like cardio machine versus power, I do a couple of predictions for the co-main and the main event, lads, before we wrap this up. Haney versus Norman Jr. Which way are you leaning before Saturday night?
I'll go Norman Jr. points.
Points?
Yeah.
I think KO.
That'd be sweet.
I feel like Norman Jr. might drop Devin Haney, and I feel like Devin Haney might flatter to deceive. You were saying he's got a multi-fight deal with Turkey, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. I got a feeling after this one, shows are going to become really full for quite a while. I don't think there's going to be many slots to get on shows after this one for quite a while.
Brian Norman Jr., his father, they were like, oh, why do you think he picked your son? He was like, he didn't pick no one. He was like, he's got a multi-fight deal. He didn't have a fucking choice but to face. So that's why we're here. And I really like that response. Loza, what are you saying?
I'm going to go against me boxing brain saying Haney, but I'm going to go Brian Norman, left uppercut or left hook knockout.
I do like his left hook.
I love that. I seen that shot and I was like, wow. Right. And we're seeing against
Norman as well.
You what, sorry?
Travis, did Travis say Norman as well?
Norman KO. I think Norman knocks him out.
Nice one, lads. All right.
We might be the only panel of... hold on, who are you going with, Brian?
You're
going with Brian
Norman. Do you know what it is? I'm actually I'm not just supporting him because we share the same name. I'm supporting him because, I want to say Devin Haney's silence, because the way he talks is just absolutely absurd for some of the things he's been doing in the ring lately. But also, I think he's got good mic skills, and especially in America where yes, we've got good fighters over there, but there's no star at the moment. And he has the ability, in my opinion, to go beyond, ironically, being this unknown guy. If he beat Devin Haney, you get the cameras around him.
Yeah.
Some of his chat in his interviews.
Funny, isn't it?
I'm like, you got the fucking superstar body. You're very intelligent.
When he said you stole that off Floyd, that was one of them ones when, if you was with your mates or whatever and someone says that, you just go like,
done him. He's class, and I've seen loads of clips of him where I'm like, you're actually a very, very quick thinking, really articulate guy.
Where's he from?
I like him.
Where's he from?
He's from the South, I believe. I think someone compared him to Roy Jones Jr. Location. They're saying he's a bit like a revamp of him. But look, I want to see some more stars, and I think with a Conor Ben winning, a Brian Norman winning, we want the personalities to come to the top, because that's where the money is. And that's where the attention is. So
also for the fights, I would look, I'm not saying I don't like the beauty of defensive boxing, but fuck it, if we can have some aggressive champions in there, then we're all going to have better entertainment, aren't we? So everyone's a winner.
All right, main event, Benavidez versus Yarde. Is anyone picking Yarde to win?
Yarde shot KO round 6.
Wow, that would be amazing. I do think it's possible, lads. I really do. I'm not writing it off at all. Because The thing about, I know what Loza said about him having, like determination. He's got the guts and he's got power. But actually, when I watched that Beterbiev fight back, I did think he was clever in the way when Beterbiev was entering, he would catch him coming in with some really good shots when he was on the back foot. He has got, it's not just all front foot pressure. He's smart at times. And I think I could definitely see him hurting Benavidez. Anyone else picking him?
I think the difference was, though, Beterbiev isn't the quickest. It's all about timing, the pressure and the power. And because Anthony Yarde had the power, he could almost gain Beterbiev's respect. So we didn't see really as aggressive Beterbiev as I've seen in the past. But eventually, it also caught up with Yarde because he got greedy. He tried to trade, and he was hanging on the ropes too much. But I think the difference is with David Benavidez, the hand speed, the pressure, he'll give him no room to breathe.
Yeah, I think what you're saying there about like the front foot pressure and that, I think that the interesting thing is you can be good on the front foot without being good in the pocket. Like people would assume if you're good on the front foot, you're good in the pocket. Nah, like you can, the two things don't necessarily go hand in hand. And one thing that Anthony Yarde is I think he's actually very good in the pocket. Like Travel know this from, I've watched his pad work for years, and I think that now we've seen him in world title fights and stuff. I think that you're starting to see that there was kind of method behind the madness, because what they did was they trained his sort of reactions and his fast twitch fibers to be in line with trading up on the inside, but at the same time as doing it, they didn't put all the miles on the clock by actually having to take the heavy lever, right? So he was fresher when he got to the point where he was able to go to war with these fighters because he hasn't had it taken out of him in the gym. But I think that it comes back to bite you just as hard in the arse that you haven't done that because you haven't acquired the experience. Ultimately, I think that Yarde's probably biggest attribute, which is his ability to dog it out, will be his downfall. And I think that Benavidez will end up getting to him in a really, really entertaining fight. But obviously, look, I hope I'm wrong.
Are you going decision?
Nah, I'd go stoppage.
Stoppage, Loza, or decision?
I'm going to go late stoppage.
I'm going to balance this out. I'm going Yarde. Fuck it. Do you know what?
Come on, Yarde.
We're all going to be rooting for him anyway, aren't we? Fucking hell. But that face-off, everyone was shit frightened. Everyone was shit frightened to fucking sign the fight with Benavidez. Everyone rejected it. The only man who stepped forward and went yes was Anthony Yarde. Credit where it's due for that. Right, and I like what he said. Well, what the fuck am I doing if I'm not taking this fight? Like, what's the point?
There we go.
And not only that, he just had this smile on his face.
He loves it.
Like,
that
I
smile.
know something. I know something you don't. And he was like, I hit harder than him. And he's like, and he's not going to be like, his legs are going to buckle here. And but talk is talk, right? But I just like the confidence, and he's got the power, so I'm going to go for it. Fuck it.
Remember that Saudi factor. There's been so many fighters that we have seen exposed in Saudi. So many fighters.
And what is the Saudi factor,
onto these?
It's Turkey, isn't it? It's Turkey picking the fucking fights.
Turkey picking the fights and making the best fight the best.
Listen, it could work. It could work against Benavidez, bro. We don't know.
Well, Benavidez hasn't boxed outside of America. I mean, South America, he had a few fights, I think, in Mexico early on, but he ain't boxed outside of America. Whereas Anthony Yarde has been literally behind enemy lines. He has been getting driven around Russia with security. And there was a story just quickly, right? The security, there's this like big white guy security, and Anthony Yarde went, is it dangerous, like, round here? Is that why you're with me? And he went, dangerous? For me, no. And he went, oh, okay. And he went, for you, yes. And I remember hearing that story and thinking, like, this is
fighting, and that's the background. Look, what I want to say before we wrap it up is, I'm not underestimating Benavidez's championship mentality. Like, that's one thing I really admired about him in the face-off, was he was very much like, I just want to fight the best guys. Like, and he is a champion. And I think you're going to have to kill him in order to fucking get this win. Like, I don't see a points win, or you're going to have to fucking kill him and put him on the, like, you know, nail him to the canvas. So yeah, that's the only way Yarde can win, in my opinion, because Benavidez' mentality is so good. Well, we're excited for it, lads. This Saturday, Saudi Arabia. We're going to be live on the Pain Game. Can't wait. A brilliant night of fights and an impactful night of fights. One that we're going to see, you know, the winner going to fight Bivol, the winner of the co-main probably going to fight Conor Benn. Such an important night of fights. We'll see you there live on the Pain Game. Like, subscribe. We'll catch us on the next one.